Alright, so finishing up from the terrain, if I go off of all four sides, let's do this. So let's go over here. So if I go off of, so it's still working. If I go off this side, obviously it's not working. Let's go over here. It's working from this side. Just had to make my terrain so big. Go off this side, doesn't work. Well, it works as in it's not supposed to be working. And then that side. And and there we go. It's going. Alright. So that concludes terrain, and now I am on to sound. So yeah, the sound project was interesting because I had to rewrite things like 6 million times, because while Fmod documentation is great for it being there, they don't go into a level of detail that I want them to, and they don't explain things. Like it took me like 5-6 days to figure out that sounds can only be played on one channel each, not multiple sounds per channel. They didn't really have that in there. They didn't have that much stuff about... They had weird things, I guess. Things that you wouldn't think. So, let's show off the audio. So, I have an audio class, which basically deals with any of the basic sound functions, which it plays a sound, it can pause a channel group. I have a paused channel group. I have a resume the channel group if it was paused. I can set a loop count, so depending on if I want something looping, which in my scene, I do have a very low rumbling engine sound, and then I have the music in the background, which is looping itself. I have I could pause a regular channel. I could resume a regular channel. I can create a channel group, which comes in handy, which basically adds a bunch of channels to a group, and then you can just stop them all at once, change their volume all at once, change their pitch all at once, whichever. I have functions that set the volume for channel groups and channels. I can set the pitch of a channel group or channel, and then I can just completely outright stop a channel. This find channel function is used to find any kind of open channel, and I only have 20 open channels in this case. So then, let's go into the CPP. So what really is the big one is the play sound. So pretty much I have to create a temporary sound, which will go into the audio source, which I'll show in a minute, and it'll get the audio source clip, whatever is playing from there. It will then find and assign an open channel. It will then get the audio source again, which will then set the source channel, depending on whatever channel it found, and then it will play a sound from that. Here too, it'll also get the audio source's location and set a vector, and then you can take that channel and then it'll automatically set its 3 attributes. It'll get the pitch of whatever pitch it was assigned, and then it'll just automatically set the volume. I had other stuff that I was messing with roll off and whatever, but it was becoming annoying, to say the least. So, I mean, here's everything else. Setting if it's something paused, setting the loop count, creating channel groups, the whole shebang. This is finding an open channel, just going through the channel array list and seeing if something is equivalent to 0, which will then return the position, which is the position which can be used at. So audio source itself, pretty much you can assign audio sources onto an object. So obviously it has you can set a source location. You can set the volume. You could set a channel group, an audio clip. You could set if a sound is 3D or not. You could set the pitch, the channel, and then obviously I have accessors that will return whatever those things are. Audio source wasn't that bad, but I had to rewrite my my sound asset manager a couple of times to get things working. And then before I show you the asset manager itself, I'll just show you the listener. Listener's pretty easy. It just sets the location of an audio listener. Pretty much it. And this is how you can use roll off depending on where that audio listener is in the world. So yeah, it just sets a position, which I have to translate a regular vect pointer into a fmod vector, which will then just set this 3 listener attributes, depending on all these parameters. Alright, so here is the sound manager, which you can load in the sound. It'll load default sounds and unload sounds, and then it'll get an audio source instead of just a sound itself. But like all the other asset managers, it has its own hash table, which it will insert new audio source clips. So I'll show you this really fast. So load sound, basically doing what every other like the image, the model, the shader manager has been doing. It's just basically setting a string to whatever the location of the sound is, and then just pretty much inserting it into the table. Creating a new hash table node. So in that hash table node, the hash table will take in a key and a value, obviously. Show you the CPP for that, and it'll basically every time you create a hash table node for the sound, it will create a sound. So obviously I've set these parameters. It takes in a name, a temporary sound pointer, and then these are like, I want it to be 3D, but I also want it to have some kind of looping characteristic. So in saying fmod loop normal doesn't mean it's always going to loop. I can determine that from my set loop count and the variables that I give it. That I showed within the game earlier, the sound working and doing different things.